definitely pursuing my relationship with God. I just want to be remembered in life in general as somebody who made an impact for my family and for the people around me and for hopefully this industry one day. The 2025 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series champion will be Donovan Strauss, myself.
Well, it's great to hear from Donnie there. I like the clarification that when he talks about about who's going to be the champion, he has to make sure we know it's going to be him. But
it's him, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it's great to hear from him and learn more about these drivers. Donnie, while being a younger guy, he's proven to be he's now kind of a veteran, entering his 4th season, kind of proving himself to be a week in and week out contender. And not only doing that, but he's starting to transition to showing that kind of skill in real life, Alan.
Oh, yeah. I love the confidence. I love that he has Charlotte targeted in the Coke Series. But look at this. He is now a full-time member of the Cars Tour. Just had his debut, his full-time debut the other night here in North Carolina. Finished 9th in the late model stock. I mean, this series, the Cars Tour, is the premier short track asphalt series down here in the Southeast. That's a big deal to get a top 10 like that against great competition. So again, to see the sim to reality pipeline continue, especially for a young man like Donovan Strauss from the home of speed, Mooresville, North Carolina, it's just so cool to see those talents cross over. Not the first we've seen, certainly not the last, but it's cool to see yet another one. And when you start off in the top 10 in the first race of the season on the Cars Tour, that's a great thing for him.
I mean, doing well over there and hoping to do great over in this series as well. You got to just root for them. It's the love and passion for racing that really drives this whole community, and it is really awesome to see. Now it's something else that I love, that drives my passion, is also seeing all of your rigs at home. Yes, this is Show Us Your Rigs, where we get to check in with the rigs that you have set up at home. And our first one, this one is from JC Nobrega. Alan, I'm thinking we may have a theme.
Oh, yeah, we got to see a theme, and it's all Brazilian tonight. You can see the track up there on the wall. That is Interlagos, where we're racing tonight. This is actually down in Recife in Brazil, and you can just see the trophies down there. I think that's 21 trophies adorning the wall. A great little setup there. The monitor, a little tiny. And look, we're used to these triple, like 80-inch, monitors that we see. That's a little one that we're seeing there, but hey, to each their own, whatever gets the job done. Nice little setup there, very clean.
Very nice setup. Our next one is from Nado Nascimento, and this is pretty clean, Ryan.
Oh yeah, no, this is a really nice setup. This is your top-notch, top-line, iRacing setup here. I love the curved monitors. The triple screen curved monitor gets you that full immersive experience, and I like that little, I like the note on the pedals there. Keep racing. I love that. Extra motivation.
Keep racing as we keep racing through these rigs. This next one, I mean, you know the man himself. Tony Kanaan is here, Alan. What a setup. Is he just showing off now?
Unbelievable setup. Look, he should show off. Think about the resume on this guy. Brazilian legend, Indy 500 winner, the team principal currently for Arrow McLaren. This guy is busier not racing than he ever has been when he was racing a car. So, and he has time to obviously have a team here in the Coke Series and streaming all through the night. What a great setup for Tony.
Our next one, we have your Brazilian sim racer. Hey, keeping it on theme.
Ooh,
no, it looks good. Straight to the point. But look, there's a resounding theme here as well. Senna, plastered everywhere. Love to see it. And I like this setup here. It's kind of your normal desk setup right here. And this is one of my favorite parts about iRacing is you could really iRace on anything, right? I mean, right now I'm sitting at my desk right now. I'm sitting on a coffee table right now. That's where my monitor is sitting. So this reminds me a lot of my setup. So props to your Brazilian sim racer here. He's showing off.
Our next one is also Brazilian. Here we go. Felipe Nasser. This is the Porsche Penske racer racing driver in the GTP class for the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Series. That's a handful to take, but I mean, look at this angle, Alan.
Oh, yeah, you could read his resume. Just know, Camille, one of the best in the world right now. Yeah. Felipe Nasser doing what he does best. I can't imagine how race car drivers sit like that, but if you're going to do it in sim, that's how you do it in reality. One of the best in the world when it comes to road racing, sports cars, IMSA, top Penske driver right there. Big smile on his face. I just love it, and got the homemade in the background. Nothing better than that. And you could just tell how relaxed he is. Not as serious when you're out there, on the real thing, but a lot of good practice laps on his sim right there.
I just feel like week after week, you guys keep showing us up. So keep sending us your rigs using the hashtag eNASCAR, tagging at eNASCAR, GG at iRacing, because we like to see them right here. And we also like to check in with drivers, and we're going to do it again because we love it so much. We're going to check in with Kanaan Esports driver Alexander Russell, who's going to be talking about his first season in the series, as well as settling a pizza debate.
Pineapple does belong on pizza. Sorry, guys. Alexander Russell, Madison, Wisconsin. This is my first season in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. The first NASCAR video game I played was NASCAR Thunder 2004. The moment I knew I wanted to be a part of the series is the 2015 Richmond race. Watching Kenny Humpy dominate is something that I knew I had to be a part of. What it means to be in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series is everything. It's something that I've worked for 10 years now. What would make my first season a successful season is finishing all the races. My biggest motivation is to prove that I belong and to show what I'm made of. Hobbies outside of video games that I have are running, photography. My favorite sports team is the Wisconsin Badgers. A non-racing video game I enjoy playing is College Football 25. The tracks that I'm looking forward to the most this season are Charlotte, Indianapolis, Texas. I think the hardest corner to perfect on this schedule has probably got to be Indianapolis Turn 3. There's a lot of technicality into it. Interlagos, I think, is going to be a really cool race. There's a lot of technical corners, and I think that driver skill should be a big factor. Rockingham, it's an interesting addition, but I don't really look forward to it that much. One tip that I'd want to give to everyone that's trying to get into the series is work hard, find a group of guys that you mesh with, and keep working with them, because you can go as far as you want with them. Tip that I received before heading into the Coca-Cola series or starting my journey is don't give up. What I want people to remember me by in the series is that I didn't give up, and I understand that while the sky may be high, anyone can climb it.
Yes, hey, he settled it. Pineapple on pizza, and here he is. Ryan, don't give me that.
Come on. Look, he whatever. He can have a bad pizza take all he wants, but at the end of the day, he's out here in the Coke series, run at the highest level of sim racing, so he's got me one up there. But no, it's cool to see these stories and learn more about the rookie here, Alexander Russell. Driving for Tony Kanaan. It's not a home race for him, but I'd say it's a home race for the team, so exciting to see him running up out here and getting those laps in.
Yeah, and his teammate Vicente is the fastest right now, so that's a good sign for Team Kanaan there.
Team Kanaan. Speaking of Team Kanaan, Alan, I feel like at the top you said the show is stacked, and it seems like you have someone that may not need an introduction, but we're going to give it anyways, that you're going to be able to talk to more?
Absolutely. We're going to talk to right now an Indianapolis 500 winner, a Brazilian racing legend, an owner here in the Coca-Cola iRacing series, Tony Kanaan. Fala, Tony. How are you doing, my friend?
Fala, galera. That's what we say in Brazil. How are you guys? Excited to be here. I actually just came back from the race shop, so I'm still in a not extremely appropriate to have a McLaren shirt on a NASCAR series, but it is what it is. But thanks for having me. Excited to broadcast this race. Interlagos is my home race. It's the place that I grew up racing. I became who I am because of that place. So extremely excited to be part of it, and hopefully, my boy Vicente is pretty fast right now, and Alex as well. The cool kids, glad that they're part of my team. And I told them all they need to do is win, so they make me look good.
No pressure. The whole country watching. Well, let's start there with Vicente. Fastest in practice right now. A lot of these drivers, they're not experienced as you are at Interlagos. What's the advice? What is the difficulty of this track that they have to overcome?
It's a very tricky racetrack. A lot of elevations and blind corners. And although I would call a track that, for people that don't really understand like a little bit of racing, but like once you approach a corner, you have your braking markers and your references to turn in. Interlagos is always will be a track that you go through a corner, you go, I could have actually gone a little deeper, or I could have actually accelerated a little sooner. And then the next step you try and you're off. So extremely technical. I'm biased, but it's out of Indianapolis. It's my favorite racetrack, and love the elevation changes. There's banking, and it's not a no-hole. Uphill corners, very tricky. When you go off of the last corner, which is you call the Junção, although on a GT car, a Formula, or even a Formula One, going up on the you call the Café, it seems a easy corner. On a NASCAR car, it's quite tricky to do it. So it's going to be exciting.
How important is it that now this series, the Coke Series, the NASCAR involvement is now running on Interlagos and kind of mixing all these worlds together on a world-famous track? Why is that important?
I mean, I think, as a sport, I would say Brazil loves racing. We were born, obviously, Senna and all the Brazilian guys, not including myself on, and I'm a small part of it, but IndyCar and F1 were extremely popular. And I think nowadays, I raced stock cars myself for a few years thereafter I retired here in IndyCar. We have a NASCAR series now in Brazil. So you're going to get a lot of support. The fans are extremely passionate. I say about the Brazilians is they love you when you win, and they definitely give you a hard time. A lot more of a hard time when you don't. But hopefully, I hope this is a hint. We have NASCAR Brazil now. It's growing. I know NASCAR United States, it's actually backing a little bit the series down in Brazil. And I'm all for giving back to the racing community. This is the reason that I have a team here. This is the reason that I have my other esports team. And having an extra series and as popular as NASCAR in Brazil is only going to help the young kids to want to become race car drivers. I'm a pure example of you don't need to be rich to succeed. If you put a lot of effort in, you can make it happen. And if that's going to lead to, in a few years, we're going to have a Brazilian guy for Rio and on the Cup Series, I will feel really proud. But at this time, I'm just glad that we have an extra series down there. Hopefully, how about we race on the Rio NASCAR guys down there? And I would say there is a chance.
Hey, maybe one day we'll get down there. I would love to cover that, especially down in Interlagos. But just being involved in the Coke Series, we talk about drivers going from sim to being professionals. How has your involvement been in the Coke Series, and has it paid off for you?
I mean, 100%. I remember 3 years ago, Otto came to me and says, hey, you want to own a NASCAR team? I'm like, what? What do you mean? On the eNASCAR, I'm like, you know what? I mean, obviously, like I said, I became extremely involved on, sim racing since COVID. And I'm a perfect example that a guy that I said my entire life, I was not going to sit on a simulator. I'm an old school. I'm terrible at it. I get beat all the time. I get frustrated. And I fell in love with it. And that led to, obviously, a lot of work on the IndyCar side with Chevrolet on the real simulator. And then the opportunity to have the team and help young kids, regardless if it's, virtual or real, the principles, the discipline, the focus, they're all the same, right? And I was able to give it back a little bit. And Vicente's been, to me, a project that I hope I can make his dream come true. He's already doing a few races on the Xfinity. What a humble kid. I almost he's my fifth son. Not that I need another kid, but I hope I can help him out, and as much as exposure I can give it to him. I know my little contribution. I said, Vicente, probably you have the Brazilians cheering for you because of us, right? And I wish I could do more for him outside the racetrack, but as much as I can, I told him he can use me when he goes sell sponsorships in real life. As far as equipment for his sim, I'm always trying to help him, advice. And we'll see. I'm working on a deal for him to be our test driver on the real simulator on the Chevy, which is at Hendrick in Charlotte. So a lot of good things to come for him, and hopefully, the beauty of the series also, we need to rotate. So Vicente is my guy. It's going to be hard for me to let him go unless he becomes a big dog and a big deal. And I told him not to forget, the small people here, the poor people. But Alexander is as the series is, we always got to rotate. So we're going to give him all the support. And look what happened to Parker, right? He raced for us and he left and he won the championship. I looked at myself, I'm like, was that me and my team? But love the team. I'm enthusiastic. I try to obviously give them, right nowadays with my role, I'm quite busy, so to just be more involved. But any way I can, I try to help get the word spread up.
Well, we appreciate your role. Good luck tonight. Boa sorte, amigo. We look forward to racing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tony, for being on here. Camille, what an awesome pleasure to talk to Tony Kanaan just before his team goes racing, the whole country on the side down there. He's doing his own Twitch party. That's going to be fun. But he'll also join Kenneth and Evan tonight between the sprint race and the main event. So watch for Tony Kanaan on the big event as well.
I just love how down to earth he is. And we got your Portuguese. There we go. Check that out.
I got 4 words in, Camille. 4 words.
Yeah. We'll see if you can up that next time. But for now, let's talk about the trends going into Interlagos. Alan.
Yeah, let's talk about this because this is the 10th different road course venue for this series. This is the 19th road course point race and the 3rd time we've got international. Actually, the 3rd year in a row. We're mixing it up every time. So this has been a fun stretch here for the Coke Series the last few years. 2 drivers have earned their first series win on a road course. They both happen to be, oddly, in 2021. Mitchell DeYoung at COTA in 2021, and then Graham Boland, who's still at it tonight, at Watkins Glen in 2021. So we'll see if someone can do it tonight. Only one driver won a road course race and then a title in the same year. It was way back in 2014. The legend, Michael Conti, won at Watkins Glen and then went on to win the championship that year. Road course race winners average 2 wins per season. Think about that. Steven Wilson wins on a road course, won 4 times in 2022. Bobby Z, 2 wins in 2024 after getting his road course win last season. So you win, you probably win again during the season. That's the takeaway. And Bobby Z, you got to look at him tonight. Bobby Z has 10, count them, 10 road course wins in this series. He has never finished outside the top 5 on a road course in the Coke Series. His worst 5th place finish. That was back in 2022 at Road America. Yeah, bring it, he says. Bring it tonight at Interlagos. I can't wait to see what he does.
I love hearing all those trends, especially after we all submitted our picks and didn't have that information.
I wish I knew that.
Why do they keep doing this to us? But for now, let's talk about our picks. This is where we are at right now. I'm just bitter.
Look at that. The high number's good, right, guys, in racing? Yeah, it's good to have more points.
Enjoy the short-term lead. Enjoy the short-term lead.
Good. Okay.
Well, with that, let's move on. Ryan, who did you pick this race?
Man, well, you just heard Tony Kanaan hyping him up. I had to go with Vicente Salas.
Good.
Bobby Z, he's obviously the favorite going into this race. He's a dominator here in the series, but Vicente Salas has been hot on his heels, and you got to remember, last year at Brands Hatch, he had a shot at the win before getting spun, and then right now, he is the fastest in practice. So currently, at this moment, he is really fast. He's going to get the win tonight.
I can't wait to see the Twitch chat if Vicente Salas wins tonight. That's going to be a big deal down in Brazil. I'm going to go with another road course ringer, though. I'm going with Steven Wilson. Give me the champ. Didn't have a great week last week in Vegas, but he can get it done on a road course. Steady Eddie got my big lead. Going with Steven Wilson.
All right, I'm going with Parker White. You know what? I like to shake things up a bit and go with maybe the pick that people wouldn't expect. But we'll see how it all goes down because, of course, we have the race ahead. And you're going to want to stick around because it's going to be exciting. There's 2 different formats that are happening. And you know who's got you? Evan and Kenneth has got you for the race. So be sure to stay tuned. From all of us here, thank you for watching Countdown to Green and enjoy the race.
Every time you sit behind the wheel, you buckle up for the unexpected. You get ready to take on the competition and brace yourself for the chaos, the speed, the weather, the unknown. But above all, when strapping in, you put trust in yourself, your intuition, making your guide to win, your drive to win. He's a winner in this. And nothing is going to stop you from winning.
Welcome to more.
Got a great year ahead.
Where the roads don't have limits on how fast you can go.
Big crew, we're going to have to fall out right here.
Or the sights you're going to see.
Oh, we got trouble!
Welcome to new places. Familiar faces.
Wow.
And memories in the making.
That's free, baby! Woo!
Welcome to a whole new season of NASCAR.
They tried to drag me down, but look who's laughing now. Look who's laughing now. I believe in something that I can't explain. The wind is calling out my name. Let it rain on me. Put in hours, and I'm not gonna wait in line. I'm gonna take what's mine for the world to see. You gotta take the lead. You gotta feel the fire.
To $500,000 races through the Republic of Brazil for just the 3rd international race in series history, where from Interlagos we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round 3 of the 2025 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. And as always, happy that you're spending your Tuesday night with us here on the iRacing Esports Network. With Kenneth Bueno, my name is Evan Pasoko, and how about an exciting way to get 2025 kicked off? 2 races back-to-back, rounds 2 and 3. and a third straight year, Kenneth, where we head out of the United States, this time for the first time in South America, to one of the world's most iconic racing cathedrals.
Well, first of all, Evan, having races in back-to-back weeks is always so exciting to have the drivers on edge to be ready to turn around for the next race. But here in Brazil, Interlagos, Autódromo José Carlos Paz hosting this race tonight. NASCAR in Brazil has grown exponentially. We've had a series there that grew a couple of years ago that's still getting its bearings together. The international scene of NASCAR is growing, so it is so exciting to bring 40 of the best sim racers here into Brazil and get them on a track that will challenge them a lot. We'll get a very good race to the finish.
I went back and watched the Brazil NASCAR Series race here at Interlagos a year ago. I don't know if that's going to prep me at all for this one, but it was a good time. As always, want to remind you, for those with NASCAR Fan Awards, to sign in now and enter tonight's code AUTO4DB to earn 50 points on your member dashboard. And if you are not already a part of NASCAR Fan Awards, no problem. Scan the QR code on your screen or go to NASCAR.com/fan rewards to get that sorted now. Well, this is the first race of the season using the sprint race format. Kenneth, walk us through it.
Yeah, so with our race program tonight, it's a little different than what we usually see on the oval side of things. We do have the top 8 qualifiers that invert from the qualifying session, and we start with the sprint race. Only 12 laps. It's very quick in a dash to the checkered flag. Drivers will race for points there, and then we'll go on to a main feature race, double the length at 24 laps here from Interlagos. So this is a format that we will be testing here tonight. Will be a lot of fun to see which drivers advance through the sprint race or how much they can learn, vice versa, going into the feature tonight.
And we'll see this same format later this year as well on the streets of Chicago. So let's take a look at your starting grid for the sprint race. And Vicente Salas was 8th best in qualifying. That means he ends up on pole in the Kanaan Esports number 11. He's alongside the ERA Esports team number 22 of Bobby Zelensky. On row number 2, it is the Spire Motorsports 77 of Stephen Wilson and the Hayek Motorsports 47 of Dylan Alt. And row number 3 sees the Channel 199 Sim Racing number 2 of Zach Novak and the BS Competition 99 of Garrett Lowe. He's P6.
Back in row number 4, that's where you'll find William Byron Esports' Nick Ottinger on the inside of the 4th row. BS Plus Competition has Jordy Lopez in his number 89 Chevrolet. Daniel Falkingham for the 6 Karma team in the 39 car rolls off inside row 5. And Parker White, who's been very close to winning a road course race in this series, will try to get his first this evening from Brazil in the 95 machine for the top 10. Jimmy Mullis in the 29 car for Kevin Harvick Incorporated will be inside row 6. And how about the other half of the Kanaan Esports hometown camp? Alexander Russell, the rookie, starts outside in row number 6.
13 tonight to the inside row number 7 is the Hayek Motorsports number 50 of Quentin Warman. To his outside, it is the FGRXL eRacing number 12 of Ryan Luza. Behind them on row 8, it is all Pioneers. At number 24, a Casey Kerwin on the inside, and the 48, a Graham Bolin on the outside. And back on row 9, it is the William Byron Esports 97 of Tucker Minter, and the second of the FGRXL eRacing cars, that's the 14 of Seth the Merchant.
To complete the top 20, that's the rookie Connor Euroshak for Latart Esports, and Apex Racing's Cody Bias in the number 98 machine rolls off from the 20th spot. Taylor Hurst got wrecked out a bit at Las Vegas last week. Will look to rebound from the inside of row 11 for Team Dillon Esports. Jim Beaver Esports has last week's race winner, Colin Keister, looking to make it back-to-back W's outside row number 11 and 22nd. Matt Busa for Kevin Harvick Incorporated will roll off his Chevrolet from inside row 12. And 24th on the grid is RFK Racing's Timmy Holmes.
Just past halfway till you'll find the Jim Beaver Esports number 5 at 8 Stewart. He's inside of row number 13. To the outside, the 6 Karma 19 of Eddie Kerner. Row number 14, we'll see the E-Racer 69 of Tyler Gary and the Williams Esports 51 of Donovan Strauss. At row 15, rounding out your top 30, the Spire Motorsports number 7 of Femi Olatunbosin and the Channel 199 Sim Racing 199. That is Dylan Duvall.
The number 6 car for RFK Racing has Colin Bowden behind the wheel from inside row 16. He'll be flanked by Christopher Hill in the 96 for Apex Racing. E-Racers Logan Clampett, one of the long tenure drivers in this series, rolls off inside row 17 with Latar Esports' Kwame Scott brings his number 36 Chevrolet to 34th on the grid. Vegas Inferno has Michael Guest in the number 21 inside row 18, and Junior Motorsports' Blake McCandless in his first coach season outside in 36th.
Final 2 times in qualifying. We'll see the Junior Motorsports 88 of Briar LaPrade and the ERA Esports team's 34 of Michael Cozy Jr. line up in 37th and 38th. And then provisionals to the drivers who did not put down a time to qualify. That's the Inferno's Malik Gray and Team Dillon Esports' Blake Crawford. Well, as always, James Pike could be the 3rd member of our broadcast team. We'll be checking in with him throughout tonight's broadcast. And right now, he has got the man starting on pole for the sprint race dialed up.
Vicente Salas had the 8th fastest qualifying time, but courtesy of the invert gets the pole. Now, fun story for the fans at home. Chente and I were both on the property when the car store kicked off their season over the weekend. And I asked him about this race, and he looked at me dead in the face and said, I'm winning this race. I'm winning this race. So, Chente, why should the people at home be believers in you to go to victory lane tonight?
Honestly, I think this is the first step to winning that race. Our pace was phenomenal at Brands Hatch last year. I just didn't play the invert. So, luckily here we played the invert perfectly. We're starting eighth and qualifying on the pole for this heat race. So just got to hit our marks, do our thing, do my job. That's what I've been saying all week. And I've been on a new mentality this year, the LaMelo mentality, if you will. New year, new me, same me, though. I'm more calculated. That's the new me. But the old me is still here. I'm still aggressive. I'm still fast, and I'm here to do my job.
You heard from his boss and Countdown to Green. You know his boss is watching tonight, and we know how quick he was at Brands Hatch last year. Tonight, Richente is all about finishing the job at his boss's home track.
And as you heard on Countdown to Green, he was the fastest driver in the practice session earlier. You mentioned playing that invert. 8th best time in qualifying means that he starts on pole. There is a bit of gamesmanship, Kenneth, I will say, to playing that invert because there were points distributed to the drivers based on their results in sprint race qualifying. So the number 1 qualifier, Jordi Lopez, who will start 8th position in this sprint race, he has scored 8 points already. Points were distributed 1st through 8th, 8, 7, 6. You get the gist. So there are already points in the bank as we look at the Logitech G race format.
Yeah, Evan, this is one of those events that gives you a chance to have a race within the main race. And with that, it was the qualifying session and gaining those extra points. A ton of drivers who got those positions probably needed those points, especially after the first races at Daytona and Las Vegas. And here is a look at our points grid as we see it. Of course, only 2 races, Evan, in this segment. So not a lot to work off of, not as big of a sample size, but forward momentum and getting your foot in the door first is a big, big positive thing when you've got a couple races left. So Parker's got the challenge right now from Colin Keister, 5 points back. Everything from the top 5 or so still single digits. So segment 1 still very close as we head into Interlagos tonight.
Yeah, tonight at Interlagos, Richmond, and Rockingham, the 3 other races that make up the 5-race segment number 1. Segment championships are going to be critical when you talk about playoff points. So are race wins, right? 5 playoff points available to every single individual race winner. So you talk about the race within the race. How about the races and the championships within the regular season? Many opportunities for these drivers to take big steps now that can maybe set them up for a good position when it comes playoff time a little bit later this year when the round of 10 kicks off in the middle of August. This racetrack, you heard Tony Kanaan talking about it pre-race. So many different elevation changes. And again, these NASCAR Cup Series cars, these modern-day next-gen cars built for a road course like this, a little bit more than any other version of the Cup cars in series history. But Kenneth, that does not mean this is going to be a walk in the park. It is going to be a bare-knuckle brawl, and it is going to be a thrilling one. We'll see, do they temper the aggression at all here in the sprint?
We might see some heated drivers in a race like this, but I'd say if you're anyone in this field for this sprint race, Evan, you're focusing on how you race this track in race trim. Obviously, in practice and qualifying, very different when you're all by yourself or you've got maybe a car or 2 around you. When you have everyone around you, left, front, center, anywhere on the racetrack, you got to be dialed up and locked in. Get a feel for your setup, get a feel for the race car, and try to get this one dialed up for the main race. This track challenge is a lot, very technical, so the driver's got to be on toes at all times.
12 laps coming up on the board. No points on the line, but the results of this sprint will dictate the starting order for the 24-lap main event a little bit later on this afternoon. It's the unofficial start to round number 3. And as always, happy that you're locked in with us on a Tuesday night. Pace car will yield to the wayside, and it'll be the Kanaan Esports number 11 Vicente Salas who brings us to the front straightaway. Green flying in the air. We are sprint racing in Brazil. Already looking 3 wide. It'll not affect the race leaders. 2 by 2 up front. Now 4 wide. Center of it all. As up front, the 11 Salas does get at it. Turn number 2 is the leader. Several cars off track, though. McCandless was in the grass, and a couple of them spinning on the exit at turn number 3.
And one of them, Evan, is Colin Keister. It sort of started around where he was in the middle of the pack, and I was just about to mention how those first 2 corners, the Senna S, are going downhill to the left and then to the right, which takes you to Curva do Sol. As soon as you get into that corner, it can thin out the pack considerably. When you're going 3 and 4 wide, you know, some of it's not going to work, and already drivers are getting their bearings together with the race cars, some of them struggling a little more than others, but for the most part, this first lap, all about getting the tires warmed up and just getting this car settled. It's not an easy track to drive at all, so be ready for 11 more laps of hard fighting throughout this field as Salas remains in control.
Pole time had qualified for Jordi Lopez, who you were just on board with, was 1:36.025. So the lap time's not that short, also not the longest we've ever seen. Maybe finding itself somewhere in the middle of Brands Hatch and Monza, the 2 other international road courses that we have been to in years past. A lot of single file up front. You see some side by side behind this group. There they are. That's that 39 of Falkingham fighting with the 95 of Parker White. That battle for 9th and 10th position as they come through the high-speed left-hand banked final corners in 13 and 14, and they basically use up all of that pit road entry there to cut the corner. High speeds, 170 miles an hour into turn number 1. Falkingham too late on the brakes. Parker White gonna cross over to the inside. Nifty move, and the 95 plays defense. Now there's trouble. Sideways goes the 39 car.
But he saves it, though. Wonderful job for Daniel Falkingham to keep his Ford Mustang rolling on. He's going to lose a plethora of track position, but it seems like he's okay. Escapes without any damage. But what did Tony Kanaan say on Countdown to Green? This is one of those tracks where you go into a corner thinking, maybe I could have gone in a little deeper. Maybe I could have gone to the throttle sooner. You do that exact adjustment, and the car goes out for a sail. In turn 1, got a little aggressive, locked up the right front tire, and allowed Parker White to make the textbook move on the inside. Those are 2 drivers, Evan, that have started this season off very well. White, the points leader after 2 straight podiums, and Falkingham with his best finish of P6 at Las Vegas last week. So both of those guys trying to parlay that momentum into the first road course race, and already a bit of drama there on lap 2.
And instead of making the pass for 10th, that issue for Falkingham drops him all the way down to position number 21. You were taking a look at Stephen Wilson. He just made a pass on Bobby Zelensky for the number 2 spot, so drop Bobby back to 3rd. I think my favorite stat from Countdown to Green was that Bobby's never finished outside of the top 5 in one of these road course things. It's easy to think with more competitive drivers that these road course races are not as much of a sign-off or a write-off as they once used to be, where you could talk about the Mitchell DeYoungs or the Bobby Zelenskys who had a 99% win percentage at these things. There are other drivers who have stepped up to the plate, but even through all of that, the consistency remains for the likes of Zelensky and others. But Salas up front continues to pace the field, now trying to open things up a little bit with a half a second padding over Wilson in that number 2 spot.
And Salas had 2 top 5s in the last 2 road course races. We know that Bobby Zelensky has won the last 4, in fact, on the road courses here in the Coke Series. But Salas has been good on his own right. And, you know, for him to be as confident as he is going into this race, already stretching this lead out and trying to get away from Wilson as we get another look at what happened there on lap number 1, entering those Senna S corners, that left-hand down low corner, and you've got, 4-5 wide. Tyler Gary, Colin Keister in the thick of things. That's Femi Olatunbosin, and then everyone, it appears, gets stacked up near those barriers on the left side of the racetrack. You don't have a lot of space to make around. It was sort of like when we went 5 wide, Evan, at Las Vegas last week, and we knew it wasn't going to work. But yeah, a lot of drama there early, but Salas on the other end of things, so confident in his ability with this race car, and it seems like the setup's working well for the driver. He remains in command by nearly a second.
Yeah, one of the big drivers who lost a lot in that kerfuffle, we'll call it, in turns 1 and 2 was Yurashak, started 19th. He's way down in the number 36 spot. You called out Keister, started 22nd. He is way down in 39th position. Again, not the end of the world, but the finishing results for this sprint race will dictate the starting grid for the feature. Battles going on all throughout the field. Up front, the battle for the race lead, and second continues on. Bottom of the screen, the battle for 24th on back. It has been a very good, I would say almost bounce back already for Blake McCandless. He was one of the cars, middle of all of that chaos, but the C4 Energy Machine up 12 spots already. Not in the clear, though. He's got Eddie Kerner and Donovan Strauss draped all over the back of that machine fighting for position.
Yeah, and Blake goes into this race with a bit of troubles on his sim rig himself. His brake pedal that he's using right now is actually his clutch pedal. He said his 4-year-old V3 brake pedal decided to take a turn for the worse, and now he's trying to adapt to using the clutch to become that new brake. So McCandless is doing a great job. Was not super confident in his speed, but already showing up well. And that's the key to these road course races. Even if you aren't faithful in your raw pace on the racetrack, as long as you survive and you keep all 4 wheels on the pavement, chances are, as others make mistakes around you and take away their own track position, you'll have a chance at gaining some naturally, and then you'll just be able to trot forward peacefully. So for guys like McCandless, that's the key, getting this thing settled up in this first sprint race, and then just being mistake-free. That's all that matters at these road courses if you cannot find outright raw pace. While these guys up front are definitely some of the best road course ringers, Wilson and Zelensky, well, they've been around each other for second, Evan, over the last several laps. It's remained around half a second between these two.
A bit of a better lap this time by Stephen Wilson, going to build the gap a little bit. You see both of those drivers using those Formula-style rims. That's not a shock. We see a lot of drivers who use wheelbases where they can actually swap out the wheel itself, switch to these Formula rims for these road courses. So this race will have a higher percentage of those than all of the races, but there are some of these guys who run these kind of wheels everywhere, ovals included. There's the comparison to Casey Kerwin, who's going full-on embracing the Cup Series element of this, and that is the NASCAR wheel and the H pattern, or the sequential shifter, I suppose, now on the right-hand side of the screen to get through the gears, whereas if you're using that Formula-style wheel on the right-hand side for Zelensky, you'll notice those hands are not coming off the wheel, likely using those paddle shifters to get through the gears. So 2 very different styles for 2 very fast race car drivers.
Yeah, it's super cool to see the way the drivers have their setups very different from the others. And look at BS Plus competition sort of in the thick of things here through the top 10. That's Jordi Lopez, who technically got the pole, but through the invert is back here in 9th, fighting with his teammate Garrett Lowe. Both of them doing well for themselves already. That's a European sim racing team represented in this top 10. But I guess with sim racing, Evan, you can immerse yourself as you like. If you want to have a realistic NASCAR setup no matter where you race, you can have one like Casey Kerwin and have your right hand on the shifter at all times. Or if you want to be a little more formula-like, like Bobby Zelensky, which, I mean, he's so comfortable with that setup. He's won 10 road course races in this series, so it has to work in some way. You can be as comfortable as you like. As here's Tucker Minter, a driver who we've seen perform well on the road courses in his eNASCAR Cup Series career, Evan, already stepping up through 11th and trying to get away from the battle here.
It'll be 6 spots gained for him, and a dive to the inside, not going to get him under the 99 of Garrett Lowe as he tries to eye out the BS competition machines. In front of him, that's the number 25 car. Nick Ottinger through on the inside for Parker White. At a battle for 7th and 8th spot, you could give that one to the Logitech G Chevrolet of Ottinger. He is now through just as quickly as he got it. Look at the 95 car crossing over is Parker White, leaning on each other on lap number 6 of this 12-lap sprint. What does this do for the BS competition Chevys? Nowhere at the moment for Lopez and Garrett Lowe to go, so the teammates will be side by side right behind this battle.
And this is a tough situation because you're door-to-door for 2 rows deep, nearly 3 rows deep going into the most technical part of this racetrack. You saw Parker make the move, the dive bomb on the inside through turn 4. That's a big opportunity to make passes here at Interlagos. It's called Descida do Lago. And as you go down there, you'd be hard on the brakes, but through here, so many technical corners and more contact. Garelo sideways in the movement with his teammate. Boy, Lowe and Lopez are going full knuckle fighting here at the exit of the corners, and now more contact. Ottinger getting punted out of the way, and through the rise up through Jun So, and here comes Tucker Minter, potentially making it 3 wide up the final corner.
Not going to be a lot of room on the inside. They tend to cut that short. Now the 99 going to get pushed off into the grass. So 3 wide. Minter drops back. And now it'll be just the teammates. But look at that 97. Look into the inside. Does the 97 make an aggressive dive bomb? He does not. Follows the 89 car through. A lot of contact between those BS competition teammates. I don't think either of them was an aggressor. They just kept getting into each other when you're side by side for that many corners. And the 97 Minter gets one of them at least. He will get ahead of Garrett Lowe. That'll exchange position number 10. And now we'll see if he can continue that momentum with the Logitech G machine. Still no changes at the front of the field. Vicente Salas has led all 6 laps that have been completed thus far. His gap still steady at about a half a second over Steven Wilson. And it has ballooned a little bit. Bobby Zelensky now slipping to more than 1 full second back in P3.
Yeah, well, here, and it's definitely reflected in the mid-pack, Evan, is the aggression that's amping up over the second half of the sprint race. As you said, this first initial sprint is going to decide where you start the feature race. And when you've got a little bit of a longer affair at 24 laps, and when it's for the marbles and a potential playoff spot on the line with a checkered flag, you're going to be aggressive to try to get the best start possible in this sprint race. So as the drivers over the first laps get used to their race cars, then they decide in their head, okay, theoretically, here's where I would start, where I'm at right now. So let me try and finagle my way to get a better starting position for that main race. And that includes even the drivers all the way at the very back. Colin Bowden, Nate Stewart, this battle going on for 24th on the racetrack with Michael Cozy Jr. right behind. It all matters from first all the way to 40th, Evan. Every single spot plays a big role into the momentum you can carry, lift, or fall going into the feature race.
And this front stretch feels like it was made for NASCAR stock cars.
Yeah.
How fast it is. Those 2 final left-hand, I'll call them kinks essentially, for turns number 13, 14, and 15. Really, all 3 of them. Trouble there, though. The 6 car spins. It's Big Dog Bowden in front of the field. Colin goes around. They'll scatter high and low, 3 wide to get by him. And by the time the track is clear, Colin Bowden pulls off in P39. Tough pill to swallow because that 6 car had been working hard, making up ground throughout this entire race.
Yeah, again, we talk about, Evan, the mistakes that happen at these road courses. You make one of those, the field is so congested together, you're going to have problems. And this is no contact at all. No help, just a locking of the left front tire and loses the race car. Bowden, though, in the middle of the pack. That's a very dangerous spot. Thankfully, everyone got away, and then look at that, casual 3 wide in the left-hander down through the Senna S's in turn 1. I don't think I've ever seen that before, Evan, in the battle for the 30s, but it's unbelievable what these guys have been able to do. Bowden, though, on the opposite end of things, going to try and recoup in these final 5.
And one thing that's interesting to note, I mentioned we'll see this format again when we go racing later this year on the streets of Chicago for our next road course race. That race, though, will feature the fixed setup format as well. So this is our one look at a road course race this season with the typical open setups where all of these teams and, of course, the technical alliances behind the scenes that can do what they want to these race cars. Here's another look from behind that accident. That was a close call for the Apex Racing Team machine on the way through. But again, no issues in the end, and Christopher Hill was able to pick up some spots through that exchange. Christopher may be one of the drivers using that mentality of, hey, I'm not coming into this thinking I'm going to light the world on fire and have a killer run. But if I can keep my car clean, stay out of trouble, that's my key to success for getting a good points night. Next time by, only going to be 3 laps to go in this sprint. Still watching this fight for what is 8th position on back, and I'm not going to sound the alarms yet, but the gap up front has started to close just a little bit. Been watching those intervals on the scoring pylon left of your screen. Steven Wilson has reeled in Vicente Salas. There they are. Make it a 2-car length gap now in the battle for the race lead.
You basically read my mind there. I was going to talk about how this gap had closed in. Wilson just a tad bit faster, 136.084. Salas a little slower to 136.1. But the lap times are so close between these three. They haven't really gotten away from each other. And then if you're Steven Wilson, now you got to think about, where do I make my attack? Remember last week at Vegas how strong the race started for both drivers. But for Wilson, he disconnected early in the race, had to deal with a below 30th place finish after reconnecting and being multiple laps down. This is a type of race where if you are Steven Wilson, you say, all right, I'm leaning forward in my gaming chair, I'm locking in. This is where I can find my second race win of the season. And he's there, pouncing on Salas's rear bumper. Just only 2.5 laps to get it done, though. The rise down to turn 6, or turn 4 rather, Deshido del Lago might be a good possibility for Wilson to make a move.
And look at both of those drivers. Completely locked in. I haven't seen any signs of nerves or pressure. They're both 110% focused right now at the task at hand. I don't know if Chente's blinked since the green flag dropped in this one. He is dialed in. The good news for him is, as he looks up the road, is no lap traffic going to be a factor. We might see a little bit of that later on when we go feature racing, but the size of this racetrack means that these two are going to be able to fight this one out amongst themselves. And if you're that 22 with Zelensky, bit of a curious spot here. If these two start fighting, do you insert yourself as a third man in, or do you maybe linger back a touch to see how that battle between the two of them shakes out? Going to be 2 laps to go this time by. You can't help but wonder, does somebody dare to make a dive into turn number 1? We've already seen at least 2 cars with single car spins from getting too deep into that turn. How tantalizing will that offer be for the 77 Wilson if he can get a good run right there on the exit of 13, and now that long run down the front stretch?
And through 14, this is where you can get all the draft from the back end of Salas's Toyota. And turn 1, I mean, you got to make that risk. Either you want to dive it to the inside or not. I'm not sure, though, if Wilson will go for it. He's a little too far back. But I'd say if you're Bobby Zelensky sitting third, you're loving this battle, and you still have a bit of time to think about it. Unlike an oval where, you know, the laps fly in the blink of an eye, here on a road course, you have a bit more time to think about things.
Well, we heard it as well on Countdown to Green. The boss man, Tony Kanaan, said that he was hosting a watch party over on his Twitch channel. So we'll say hi to all of the folks over there. And he is watching intently as his man is trying to play some defense. And hang on, Tony looks way more nervous than Vicente in this scenario as we are inside of 2 laps to go in the sprint race. Steven Wilson still only a half a car length off. It has stayed cordial between the two of the very best drivers in the series. Not much longer, though. To the inside goes Wilson. Locks up the right front tire. They'll go nose to nose. Inside for the 11 car means that Salas stays in front.
Look at Tony's reaction there, just waving, and then he notices the move to the inside, and just a little nervous there, seeing Salas under the most pressure we've seen him in throughout this entire sprint race. But don't look now, the third place Bobby Zelensky Chevrolet is within striking distance, so whatever mistake Wilson makes, Zelensky can be there to pounce for second, or if the top 2 tussle, it could be a battle for the race lead. They'll rise up through 13 and 14 for what may be the penultimate time here. White flag in the air for the sprint race 7. Salas pulls away by 3/10.
It's the biggest advantage that the 11 car has had in the final 4 laps of this race. Only 2.68 miles to go to secure pole position for today's feature. All 3 of the top 3 cars separated that time by only 0.6 of a second. Is there anything that Wilson and Zelensky, who have been a little bit faster than Salas since the halfway point in this race, have they saved anything? And you look at a track map, where is this move going to come from? Heavy braking zone there, turn number 4, no look, and then they get to the highly technical second half of this lap.
Well, remember, Wilson had made his move near turn 7 and turn 8, so it was at the more technical part of the racetrack in the run down to Pinheirino that at that point Wilson inserted his nose to the inside of Salas's Toyota, and that's where he made his money nearly, but this time he's just a little too far back. You got to start pouncing for those final several corners. Junso is the place where you can get the best run off the corner, and then it's going to be a drag race up the hill. Zelensky with some connection issues. Wilson in the back trying to make a move. Salas still playing wonderful defense through these final corners.
There's a look off of the back of the race leader. You hear the throttle control. You hear the 11 Toyota through the gears as it's the final hard-braking point in turn number 12. And then that run from 13 through 15 and to the front straightaway. Steven Wilson just doesn't have the speed off of the corner that he would have needed to put up a fight. And it might not be a ticket to the playoffs quite yet, but a step in the right direction. Vicente Salas takes the checkered flag and wins the sprint race at Interlagos. The boss is happy with that. It is objective number 1 checked off on the night. He said it. He was playing the invert, Kenneth, for this exact scenario. He said that I will trade those 7 points for this moment right there, and it means that he will start from P1 when we do it for real.
And when you get a checkered flag, or at least you give yourself that chance to get the checkered flag to lock into the playoffs early, that is magnificent. And for Salas, I mean, this is a comeback race. Las Vegas won the pole and fell back. Thought he had the speed to get the race victory, but performed at this time. Salas, the winner of the sprint race. Wilson and Zelensky gave him a whale of a fight, though, at the end.
Let's take a look at your sprint race results. The win goes to Vicente Salas with the Tony Kanaan Esports Toyota taking the checkered flag ahead of Steven Wilson in second and Bobby Zelensky coming home in third with the ERA Esports team. Dylan Alton, Zach Novak, top 5 results with Casey Kerwin, Parker White, Nick Ottinger, Jody Lopez, and Tucker Minter, your top 10.
And then back in 11th, we see the drivers that were really making moves. Garrett Lowe, Ryan Luza, Jimmy Mullis, a hefty amount of competition, Evan, that just a little short, but a lot of them will figure things out when we get to that longer feature race to see guys like Graham Bolin, former Watkins Glen winner, the other half of the Kanaan Esports camp, and Alexander Russell, 17th. Demergent Duval rounding out that top 20. Lots of big names there, and then 21st on back. Some drivers who found issues for the opening laps just trying to get back into things.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a bounce around for some of the drivers who finished back here in the 20s. Daniel Falkenham started as a top 10 car. That's not a good result for him, but it is a good result for the likes of Michael Cozy Jr., who started 38th, Blake McCandless, who started 38th. Those are big pickups for those drivers, while others weren't quite as fortunate, down in the 30s.
Yeah, there's Tyler Gary was involved in that opening lap scuffle near turn 1. Timmy Holmes, Femi Olatunbosin, Brian LaPratt. Those are all the guys basically that got involved in that 4-wide crash through the Senna S's. And then Christopher Hill for Apex Racing going to try and get it from shotgun in these final minutes and get himself ready for that feature race. So we'll see how it goes.
So Vicente Salas takes home the win in the sprint race in the Mirar Financial Group Toyota for Kanaan Esports. And our James Pike is caught up with Tony Kanaan.
TK, Chente together here in Victory Lane. Tony, we'll start with you since Evan made the point. How proud are you of your driver to get a win, not only in the Coke Series, but at your home track in this series?
Look, I mean, I'm not sure I can even express. You guys probably saw my face. I was freaking out like I was in the car in the last lap for the Indy 500 when I won. But, you know, Vicente's an awesome kid. I have a lot of respect for him. And, you know, I told him he's one of my heroes. Obviously, my hometown, he better actually please the boss and win the race here. Otherwise, we're going to have a chat tomorrow. But, you know, I've never, throughout my career growing up as a kid, I was always extremely humble. I tried really hard to make it. And I see that on him. And I told him, I promise him I'll be on his side, regardless if he's going to be driving for me forever or not. But I'm always going to try to help him as much as I can, and really proud of him. He should enjoy that victory. I actually won a few races there in real life. It's a wonderful feeling.
Chente, it was not easy. You had to hold off both Steven and Bobby Z there in the last few laps. What was the feeling in the car like? Were you losing grip, just having to fight it to make sure you could get across the line P1?
Yeah, I was getting a little tight. I'm actually on the track right now trying a few adjustments, but yeah, losing a little bit of front grip. I started playing with my brake bias and lines a little bit, which I think was helping there at the end. But hopefully these adjustments will carry us in the main event and allow us to kind of keep that separation we had to Steven there, because he got up to us in those slow corners. So I'm looking forward to this main event. I'm super grateful and thankful to Tony Kanaan, everybody at Tony Kanaan Esports, for the opportunity to represent them on the racetrack. And hopefully we can go finish the job here, not just win us a heat.
CK a victorious owner, Chente a victorious driver in the Coke Series, looking for the sweep now in Brazil.
He's going to have the best seat in the house when it kicks off, as Chente will start from position number 1. Let's wind it back, Kenneth, take a look at what all happened in the sprint race, and it started with a bit of chaos in turn number 1, all behind the leaders, though, on that opening lap.
Yep, all the guys who finished at the back end of the field in the sprint race were most likely involved in that turn 1 incident down the Senna S's. And then right here, the battle for the top 3 did not change the entirety of the sprint race, but we had great racing through the mid-pack. Jordi Lopez dialing up the inside. One of many battles we would see Lopez in throughout the race. Daniel Falkingham overshoots turn 1. Parker White gets to the inside, then a bit of contact 3 wide with Tucker Minter. Wonderful job saving it as Tucker gave him a second shot. And look at this, the stock cars going into these technical Interlagos corners. It's a wonderful sight to see. It gave everybody a bit of things to learn throughout the moments between the sprint race and the feature, but great stuff at the end with Vicente Salas holding on.
There was that issue that involved that number 6 car sideways in the middle of the road that was Colin Bowden, who lost a lot of spots. And then again, in the end, Salas able to hold off Wilson and Zelensky to start from the number 1 position. Well, as we get set to get tonight's feature race underway, I want to say thanks to all of our partners who make tonight's broadcast possible.
This portion of the broadcast is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. Logitech G. Through design, engineering, and a love of driving games, Logitech G takes racing simulation to another level. Logitech G, the official wheel and pedals of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. And by Sunoco. From fueling your favorite NASCAR teams to filling up at the pump, Sunoco is trusted to help vehicles perform at their peak. Sunoco. Performance is what we do.
And with that, it's time for the main course. Let's go trackside and take a look at your Coca-Cola starting grid. It is the man representing Kanaan Esports, the 11 of Vicente Salas, will bring us to the green flag tonight from pole, and to be joined alongside the Spire Motorsports 77 of Steven Wilson, who is in search of race win number 2 on the season. Then it is one of the greatest road course racers of all time in this series, the ERA Esports Team 22 of Bobby Zelensky. He's next to the Hayek Motorsports 47 of Dylan Alt. And on row 3, the Channel 199 Sim Racing number 2 of Zach Novak, and the Kansas City Pioneers 24, that is Casey Kerwin.
Parker White for Williams Esports has had a podium in the last 2 road course races, looking for win number 1 on this type of track. And Nick Ottinger, in his 19th road course start, will be on the outside of row 4. Jordi Lopez for BS Plus Competition will roll his Chevrolet from inside row 5. And Tucker Minter has performed well at these road courses before. Average finish of 5.5. He'll be at the exit of the top 10 with BS Plus Competition's Garrett Lowe in his 14th road course start. And Ryan Luza for FGR XL in P12.
Continuing on through, it is the first of 2 KHI cars lined up. That's the number 29 Treetop entry of Jimmy Mullis. He's alongside the Hayek Motorsports number 50 car of Quinton Warman. Then the second KHI entry right behind him, it's Matt Busa in the 62, and the Kansas City Pioneers number 48 of Graham Bolin in the Price Chopper Chevrolet. And back on row number 9, it is Alexander Russell in the second of the Kanaan Esports Toyotas. His Micro Center 66 car starts to the inside of the Team Dillon Esports Dude Wipes 33 at Taylor Hurst.
Seth the Merchant for FGR XL rolls off his car from the inside row 10 position, and the 199 car for Channel 199 Sim Racing, Dylan Duvall, in his 16th road course start in the Coke Series, is on the outside in 20th. E-Racers Logan Clampett in the 42 rolls off inside row 11. Nate Stewart for Jim Beaver Esports looking to get good momentum off of this race. He is 22nd on the starting grid, with Daniel Falkingham top 10 in the points right now for 6 Karma in the inside of row 12 to start tonight. At the other end of the ERA Esports camp, Michael Cozy Jr. finished second last week at Las Vegas, looking for a good road course effort from 24th.
Blake McCandless in the Jada Motorsports number 8 car, rocking the Strawberry Watermelon Ice C4 Energy colors tonight. He's inside of row 13 next to Eddie Kerner in the 6 car number 19. Behind them, it is the Williams Esports 51 of Donovan Strauss, lined up next to the Vegas Inferno number 1 of Malik Gray. Colin Keister and the Misadventure car. That's Jim Beaver Esports' number 15 machine on the inside of row 15. Behind him, the second Vegas Inferno car. That's the 21 of Michael Guest outside row 15.
The second E-Racer machine is Tyler Gary in the 69 car from the inside of row 16. Connor Yuroshak for Latart Esports in his first road course start in the Coke Series. He's going to be outside in 32nd. Cody Bias for Apex Racing in the 98 will roll off inside row 17. 34th belongs to the RFK Racing Ford, the 17 of Timmy Holmes. Femi Olatunbosun, super strong at Vegas last week for Spire Motorsports. He's inside row 18. And Junior Motorsports' Brian LaPrade rolls his 88 Chevrolet from 36th on the grid.
Row number 19, we'll see the Latart Esports number 36 of Kwame Scott in the Sunoco colors tonight. And outside of that row, it is the Team Dillon Esports Coca-Cola Zero Sugar number 3 of Blaze Crawford. We saw the issues in the sprint race for the RFK Racing BuildSubmarines.com number 6 of Colin Bowden. That car is actually slated to start from pit road, which means that it is the Apex Racing Team VRS number 96 of Christopher Hill starting in 40th. One more reminder for NASCAR Fan Rewards members to enter the code AUTO4DB on your member dashboard and earn 50 points right now. If you're not a member, go to NASCAR.com/fan rewards or scan the QR code on the screen to join now. Remember, points were paid out in qualifying, but as we continue on this race and through the rest of the season, if you want to know everything when it comes to the schedule, the standings, the points, and more, all of that information and more, Kenneth, they can find it by logging on to eNASCAR.com.
And we've got plenty of rookie drivers in this 2025 season. A lot of guys could become those newest Coke Series drivers. And the eNASCAR College Series comes around, had a bit of a spring break, but they're back on Tuesday, March 18th. The time attack began on the February of 18th and has already run through, so all of the drivers basically qualified. They'll be at Iowa Speedway with the Xfinity Series cars as the Coke Series rolls on to the first short track race.
That'll be our first time we see the heat race format as well in a couple of weeks' time at the Richmond Raceway as we almost all of a sudden approach the end of the first segment. One more look at where your picks were from our hosts on Countdown to Green. Camille went with the number 95 of Parker White. He'll be starting P7 in this race. Alan went with Steven Wilson. He is rolling off in the number 2 spot. And of course, Ryan went with the 11 of Vicente Salas. He is on row 1. So I'll say across the board, all their picks in the top 10, pretty good.
Hey, absolute cinema between those three. Really good picks. But I'm going to say Ryan in his rookie season for Countdown to Green picks, he picks Vicente Salas. He's the strongest car right now. So, you know, all bets might be to Ryan. He may take the points lead away from Allen before this is all said and done. This is what the format looks like on our Coca-Cola race program, Evan. We double the length from the sprint race, 24 laps, which means we may perhaps see a bit of strategy in this race, a little more than we anticipated from the sprint event. So drivers are going to be a little more aggressive now. Sprint race got them used to the driving style here at Autódromo Jose Carlos Paz. Now they got to put it to work for all the marbles in this main one.
And remember, we paid out points to those top 8 qualifiers, 8 points to first, 7th to second, all the way down to a single point for P8. No points were paid out in the sprint race itself. That one set the qualifying order and the starting grid for this main event. Well, the lights are out on top of the pace car, and Vicente Salas did it earlier in the heat race. He started P1, and he went on to take home the victory. Can he deliver now the big win for the boss in his home country of Brazil? He's got a lot of hungry drivers lined up behind him who want to make sure that that Cinderella story is not on the headlines tonight. As always, happy that you're spending your Tuesday night with us on the iRacing Esports Network. It is Vicente Salas and Steven Wilson on the front row. 24 laps on the board. Let's go racing at Interlagos. Looking to the inside, Zelensky thinks about it, pulls it back, 4 wide, center of the pack again. Is there any way they get clean through the Senna S in 1 and 2? Couple of cars spinning towards the rear. Few of them off track, up front, unabated. And to the race lead goes Vicente Salas. Here comes Wilson on the inside.
Wilson finally striking. It took him the entirety of the sprint race to make a move. They make contact in the run to turn 4. Descida do Lago belongs to Steven Wilson on the opening lap, and already more trouble. Off the corner, we saw 4 wide that got Michael Cozy Jr. tapped into Colin Keister's Ford Mustang, and we're getting drama all over. This time, Malik Ray and Seth the Merchant, the absolute heart of the incident. The Merchant having to back his Toyota from the barriers there in turn number 4. He tows it to pit lane, so a lot more action, Evan, on the racetrack, chaos-wise, compared to the sprint race. The difference in intensity, very apparent over the opening lap.
In trouble, the 2 Logitech cars of Nick Ottinger and Tucker Minner also got together, same spot of the racetrack, and I don't think as severe as damage for those cars as what you're seeing with the Merchant's machine, but all kinds of problems. Turn number 1, kind of expecting that, and then turn number 4, bit of a bonus action as the field has now finally spread out, and now Vicente Salas going to have to do something that Stephen Wilson and Bobby Zelensky were not able to do to him, and that is a green flag pass for the race lead. Stephen Wilson lost that top spot. He went side by side with him into turn number 1, but Vicente had him cleared on the exit at 2. But it was a better corner exit for Wilson. They made contact a couple of times, and that allowed the 7070 car to go through. So it feels like we're watching the sequel in the battle up front, single file for the time being. Back in the midfield, it's always easy to spot that bright yellow car, center of it all. That is, of course, Blake McCandless, up 6 spots. Trouble behind, spinning, it's his teammate. That's the 88 car of Briar LaPrade, who was off it into the sand.
And it was 2 cars that went into the grass. The first one was 6 Karma's Eddie Kerner, the rookie, and then Brian LaPrade went spinning through there, tried to reemerge normally, but the car just did not like the way it re-entered the racing surface and it spun around. So LaPrade having to be on the behind the 8 ball literally here, like he did in the sprint race after being involved in that turn 1 Senna-esque crash that involved a ton of other guys that went straight for that inside barrier. So a lot of bad luck for them early. And remember, the end result of the sprint race decided the starting grid for this feature. So all those guys who struggled and tried to gain the track position at the end are still stuck back there to start this race. So they got to be a little aggressive to move to the front. And for a lot of those guys, it just does not pay off. Plenty already at the back of this field, either with damage or with plenty of lost track position to start.
And for most of the cars inside of the top 5, not a lot of changes. Kerwin's up a spot, Alt's down 2, Parker wide exactly where he started in P7. So some movement here, some movement there, but I think that sprint race really did give us a pretty good look at what race pace these fastest cars of the racetrack have. Now, to your point, longer race, we double the length. We'll see once we get beyond lap number 12, are these drivers approaching tire conservation a little bit differently, knowing that this race distance is longer, and will that play into somebody else's hands better or worse? We'll see, but at least right now, I think you got the 3 fastest cars in town running 1, 2, and 3. You can see as those rest of the field cycles in the frame top of your screen, some side by side back there, but looking at the top 8 or 9 trying to break away from the rest of the field.
Yeah, a lot of these guys just getting used to the race right now and just trying to stay calm from all the chaos that began. But in the way of getting track position, hopefully they can do so. But remember how important the braking and the tires were in the sprint race. Salas had mentioned, Evan, had that he lost a bunch of front grip and was trying to recover for the rest of that race.
And that's one thing you don't want to be doing, is chasing the car. We'll take 2 looks here at some incidents that have happened. First, the 33 of Taylor Hirsch started this race at 18th spot. You see that Chevrolet way to the outside, and as they get 4 wide underneath him, he has to try to cut back onto the racing surface to make that turn number 2 there. He gets on the curbs, sideways, contact with the 5 machine and Nate Stewart, and into the outside, retaining the ball, more cars spinning behind. And then the second one, the 99 Garrett Lowe. This was that other incident down into turn number 4, a bit of a checkup in front of him. He gets in maybe a little bit too hot for the corner anyways, breaks sideways, and then is able to keep on going, thinks he's in the clear until, well, they can't get rid of the 3 and 4 wide, takes a bit of another shot there. That was the 42 to the outside of the racetrack, and then he tries to continue on through. So that 99 Garrett Lowe started this race at 11th. He only loses 4 spots. Certainly the spin that we saw out of the other driver in that replay, Taylor Hirsch, a lot more hurtful. That cost him nearly 20.
And the same for Nick Ottinger as well, who performed rather great for himself in the sprint race, rolled off 8th in this feature, and he's already back to 26. So it takes one mistake or one spin to take you out in track position, especially through these early lapses. Here's the battle for 6th on back. Parker White, Dylan Alt, Jordy Lopez, and Ryan Luza. Plenty of guys that we saw in this area of the field in the first several laps. And how about Casey Kerwin looking to the inside? He'll try to make a move this time by on the fellow driver of Zach Novak for Channel 199 Sim Racing as the top 3 pull away. Seems like, Evan, the storyline is mostly the same, albeit Wilson's in clean air, Salas is not. But mistakes matter so much at these tracks. You spin or you find yourself in a precarious spot, you're back in track position, and it may be the end of the game.
Well, there are some unique sim racing challenges, and I always like to try to compare them to what the real world equivalency would be. I don't know if I've got one for this, Kenneth, so the floor is open if you've got any suggestions here. Ryan Luza having some issues with his internet at home, so he's running off his mobile hotspot right now. Most of these drivers will make sure they're not even using their dedicated home Wi-Fi, right? You're hardwired in, you want the optimal connection. He's rocking his mobile phone hotspot right now. He's not in the driver's zoom, so we don't get the live camera for him. He's trying to limit how much data is actively being used. I can't come up with a comparison for that. That is a unique sim racing challenge, and he's making the best of it right now in the top 10 spot.
You know, Evan, we talk so much about the mechanical gremlins that get drivers in real life and how random it can be. And that's basically the equivalent of that in the sim racing world. Is you have something in the car that's wrong, or radio miscommunications that you got to go to channel number 2 and figure out how to talk with your team and get things sorted out, especially on the strategy or spotting side of things. But I mean, I didn't know that the gambling continued after Vegas. Luza on the hot spot. I mean, it can be very sketchy when you only have a hotspot in, but thankfully he's got a good connection now, and he's getting a good look at the battles up in front. I mean, plenty of guys that he can take for track position here. Remember, Casey Kerwin earlier made that move on Zach Novak, and now through the technical part of the course, back behind turns 5 and 6. I mean, these are downhill corners. Pinheiro was a big sweeping corner to the left, downhill. Plenty of track position he can gain still in this fight.
He is at the tail end of this battle, which is good news for him. It means that there is opportunities to gain, whereas if I'm that 24 Casey Kerwin, the bottom left of your screen, not in a good position. If you're the leader of this group, the only real opportunity right now is to lose positions. There's nothing to gain. You see those top 3 are pulling away just a little bit. I think a pretty clearly defined speed difference, at the moment at least, between Wilson, Salas, and Zelensky and the rest of the field. But Casey knows if Zach Novak gets to the inside, gets him offline, tries to take that spot away, that could open him up for White, for Alt, for Lopez, for all of those other drivers to come in quick succession. So it is going to have to be primarily defensive driving here, courtesy of the 24 Kerwin. And anytime we got somebody like this with cars behind him, I like to try to look in the eyes, see if he's glancing up at the rear view mirror. Looks like he's doing a pretty good job of staying locked in. There's a peek. You caught that one there. Just trying to keep an eye on where Zach Novak is behind him. And again, I'm sure the spotter, who all of these drivers for the most part have a live spotter in the sim with them, keeping him well informed of what's going on behind him.
Yeah, there's a phenomenon in racing called mirror driving, which obviously none of those drivers are doing now, but you always got to keep a look at where the opponent is track position-wise, and you also get a feel of where they're gaining on this track. And remember when Wilson tried to make the move on Salas for the sprint race lead, it was around turns 8 and 9 down in Pinheiro when he made the move to the inside and it didn't work. Well, it's basically a sense of where the driver behind me is gaining, where they're losing, and where I can take advantage and separate myself from everyone else. And I think for the top 3, it's sort of hard to find a separator because all of them are so good at these road courses in Coke Series history, but I'm sure Salas is thinking of many different ways to get a little bit better through these corners and get that bit of a closer to Wilson, because first time we're seeing Salas in dirty air all night long.
And it's impressive seeing Stephen Wilson as well up front and leading laps in this race on the road course against the likes of Salas and Zelensky. Zelensky mainly, of course, who has had all that success. And, you know, Stephen Wilson's already a race winner this season. Won at Daytona a couple of weeks ago. Already knows to a certain degree of certainty that he's going to be in the playoffs, courtesy of that race win, as long as he can maintain a good enough point standing. What a start it would be for him to get 2 race wins in the opening 3 weeks. Again, we are a long way from cashing that check with 18 laps to go that time by, and with Salas still only 2.5 car lengths off of the bumper. That 11's going to do everything he can to make sure that does not happen. But you're right, it is a position that we have not seen Salas be in tonight, and that is be the driver forced to be the aggressor and, of course, driving in the dirty air of the car in front of him. Those top three right now, 3.4 seconds ahead of Casey Kerwin in fourth on back, so they continue to pace the field right now.
Yeah, they have been the class of the field as we see it. And you mentioned Wilson there, a driver who's already won at Daytona, which, eluded him for a while, like he told us, in victory lane at the World Center of Racing. He's going to look to become the first driver since himself to win a road course and an oval race in the same season. He did it back in 2022, and he's one of only 2 drivers that are not named Bobby Zalenski to win on a road course in the next-gen era. Mitchell DeYoung, the other one to do that. So Wilson trying to put himself in pretty elite company on winning on both ends of the spectrum when it comes to different speedways. As here's a look at the other end. This is rookie Blaze Crawford, who started this race all the way back in 38 for Team Dillon Esports, Evan, and he's already working to 26 above Femi Olatunbosin, and plenty of great battles beneath the top 25 is right behind this Team Dillon Esports car. Kwame Scott getting a bit of Femi there. Both of them make contact in the run-up to turn 13.
Yeah, all those cars in the green. Blaze up 12 spots. He is the biggest mover in the field by just a single spot. Tyler Gary's up 11 spots, but he's further up the road in the number 20 position. So good stuff so far out of the Coca-Cola Zero Sugar number 3 Chevy of Crawford. And they are dive bombing it all over the place around him. He's looking in the mirror and talking about it. The cars behind him just about wiped each other out into turn number 1. You can see them scattering behind him with that 98 Cody Bias off the racetrack. So he got a bit of a laugh out of that one, as it'll increase his odds. Look at the big gap that he's gained now over the next driver in line, because they all nearly took each other out in turn number 1. So close call there. They all keep it on the racetrack, but it's going to give a nice cushy gap to Blaze.
Yeah, you make one false move, or, Evan, you go side by side for a little bit too long, all of a sudden you're chopping off so much lap time to the cars in front. So I'm sure that Crawford is a bit happy to see the relieved pressure from the back end of his Chevrolet, but these battles persist. I mean, Timothy Holmes in the 17 car right in front of Cody Bias's Apex Racing Chevrolet, and these guys still going at it. Daniel Falkingham back in 31st. He's up there. Colin Keister, Las Vegas winner, is in 30th. So still plenty of points to play for. And Evan, we talk about confidence levels between road course ringers and guys that aren't as experienced. Well, the guys on that end of things that aren't really confident in their road course experience, that's what they want. Gain track position for some solid points and not a disastrous road course race tonight.
And back up front, it is still the 1-2-3 running order for Wilson, Salas, and Zelensky. It's tricky because every time you look, they're there is exact gap apart from each other. You're worried if you look away, a move can happen at any point. There's that 3-wide move that happened behind Blaze, but we were on board with him. It was the 96 who was the aggressor, and they just kind of ran out of room on corner exit. He gets pushed wide. That was the number 36, shoving him off the racetrack with Kwame Scott. And again, they all kept it going. That 15 car in the mix as well. That's Colin Keister. He gained a few spots in that exchange, but all of those cars keep it onto the racetrack and stay green. But again, up front, it looks like it's calm, but it's a close enough gap that we look away for a couple of corners, and this complete running order could shuffle up. Not the only good stuff, though, going on inside of the top 10. How about this battle for P7 on the bottom? Jordy Lopez in that spot right now, but he's got a good contest coming from Dylan Alt and Ryan Luza.
Yeah, these guys not giving up in this fight. Remember, we talked about Luza in the middle of all this on his hotspot, still in the single file train. And, this is sort of the same range of cars in the back half of the top 10 that were making fun battles all across the track here at Interlagos through that sprint race. All of them going side by side, nearly 3 wide. Garrett Lowe was in the middle of this before he got bounced back to where he is now in 15th. But this is the fun part of the race to watch, other than the top 3 being so competitive together, is all these guys at the back half for top 10. These are great points on the line here, and specifically for guys like Jordy Lopez, who picked up the 8 points for winning the pole right before that sprint race and the top 8 invert. I mean, he's loving life right now in P7, balling like it's March Madness here in the top 10 with Alton Luza trying to go for blow right behind him.
I'm going to call out one of the drivers just behind that group that we're looking at there, the 199 Abishita Dylan Duval. You talk about somebody who has used this race format to his advantage. Not the best car in qualifying, right? Lined it up in 30th position, but he used that sprint race to go from 30th to 20th, and he has used this feature race to go from 20th to 10th. So he is really maximizing this format, using it to his advantage, and is seemingly a top 10 car right now. Knew that car had some speed. It had top 10 speed in the practice session. And without this heat race format, the sprint race, I should say, I don't know if he's up here this quickly. But using this format to his advantage, clearly he's got a good piece.
Yeah, and that tells you that he has such a high IQ behind the wheel. A lot of other drivers may not think about that, but for guys like Duvall, I mean, I mentioned it in his 16th road course start in his Coke Series career. He is so talented. He's been in this series for such a long time that he can take advantage even of the new formats that take the way of the series over the last several years in this next-gen era. So, I mean, in increments of 10, progress is progress anyway, and Duvall definitely needs these points in the situation that he's at. He has not had the best start to the season. His best finish was 13th at Vegas, so this is a very big game.
Well, this is one of the most celebrated circuits in the world. Let's let you experience it from track level. This is iRacing Full Throttle. One of the few racetracks around the world as well that use this counterclockwise layout. This racetrack has seen some real classics over the years and enjoying what it's putting on so far here tonight in the virtual world. An update while we were in iRacing Full Throttle, Graham Bolin, who was running inside of the top 12, had a connection problem. He has lost connection to the race server, so his car is not currently on the racetrack, and we will update you as he looks to reconnect. But again, even best case scenario, if he were to load right back in, is going to be 39th on the track. So a very bad break for Graham Bolin, who was having an otherwise good night, as we pick up the battle involving that 50 car. That's Quinton Warman, 14th.
Yeah, it's so tough, Evan, when that hits you at the worst possible time, and Bolin was just in his rhythm, getting things together, and all of a sudden he's out, going to try and reconnect here. But look at these battles. Great for 16th on back. Matt Busa playing the defense on E-Racers, Logan Clampett. And then the Kanaan Esports Toyota, Alexander Russell, a driver who said pineapple belongs on pizza. Don't know how much I agree with that statement, but Russell is in 18th, and he made that move to the inside of Clampett. Didn't work, but it's safe to show that literally every single one of these drivers is fighting the wheels off of these race cars, and any little mistake brings another one within striking distance, and this long line of cars at least a second thick.
Alexander Russell, of course, one of the 8 rookies in the field here in the 2025 season. So exciting to see him competing. They don't have any road course races in the Contender Series schedule, but it is a pretty respective showing for him in his first career road course race in the Coke Series. Again, we're still watching up front. Who's going to make a move? When are they going to make a move? And still far, it is the status quo. Wilson 1, Salas 2, and Zelensky in 3rd. Dropping back to the number 29 machine. He is the aggressor in this battle. That's Jimmy Mullis in 13th spot, trying to chase down the 99 of Garrett Lowe. Behind them, you've got Michael Cozy Jr. in the mix as well. Cozy's somebody else who has really used this format to his advantage. 38th in single car qualifying, finished 24th after the sprint, and is now in P14. What a turnaround that he's been able to do.
Yeah, and speak of the difference from the first couple of laps, and that first lap specifically, through turns 1 and 2, those center-ass corners, Cozy had drifted off the racing line because he was outside 4 or nearly 5 wide, had to get in it and hooked one of the cars as he re-entered the surface. So he picked up a bit of damage there, but he's playing great catch-up here in this main race. And as we're basically now halfway through, we're going to start to see a bit of the strategy come in, so maybe some more gains for those up at the front. And watch for 4th. Casey Kerwin, who pulled away from Zach Novak, is watching the Maine native Parker White, defending series champion, catch up to him in the battle just inside the top 5.
Parker White would love to get a race win in this one. He's not likely going to be able to catch those top cars who continue to pull away, but his battle for 4th has gotten real good as that 95 machine has closed in on the back of the 24 of Casey Kerwin. Maybe they look to make a move as they head off of the first part of this racetrack, and then a long run down what is essentially that back straightaway between turns 3 and 4. Heavy braking zone, turn number 4. No look to the inside yet for the 95. Maybe he'll choose the technical section of the racetrack as they go through that high-speed left-hand turn number 5 and into the most technical part of the racetrack down here. But Parker White's somebody else who knows when to make the move, when to wait. One of the higher IQ drivers in this series. You can see these drivers using every little bit of curb, trying to maximize the apex in every single direction. He's there, though, now on the bumper. When/where is that move going to come from for the 95?
It's so lovely to see this specific sector of the racetrack, because through 6, 7, 8, 9, and as you continue up to Junso in turn number 12 and then up to 13 and 14, you can really see how the elevation change affects the way the drivers handle the racetrack. When you're going uphill, the rear tires just want to kick out a little bit more because you can catch a bit of air time with the 3,400-pound stock car around this Interlagos circuit, or the downhill portions where you get a bit of load there in the G's, and then the brakes can maybe falter a little bit, and you get a lot of different phenomenons that happen behind the wheels. So it's so amazing to see just how everyone adjusts to it specifically, and how good all of these guys have been throughout this race. How about the battles all over the racetrack from 1st to 4th, even 12th?
They are all over the place, and if I could just have this picture all race long, I think I'd be completely content with it. Just the battle cam everywhere on the racetrack, and you don't miss a thing. Watching the leaders, watching the battle for 4th, and then kind of pick your choice for that 3rd box in the bottom right. Right now, it's the battle for P12 with, again, still Mullish trying to chase down low, but that could just as easily be the battle for 14th or the battle for 23rd, 26th. I mean, there are so many different fights going on all over the racetrack right now. A little bit tricky to find out which one you want to look at any given moment. But one thing we've noticed is there have been some big moves. Drivers getting too deep into turn number 1, which I don't know if we've really seen a single car incident like that in this feature, but saw it a couple of times in the sprint. But these are not moves that are, drivers get up to somebody, they knock them out of the way, and you move on with your day. I mean, all of the battles have at least tried to be pretty respectful. We've seen some beating and banging, more so door to door, though. Nobody's getting punted out of the way. Parker White, I'm sure, is the faster car in that bottom, or the bottom, I should say, in the bottom left of your screen there. He could have just knocked the 24 out of the way. Instead, racing fair, Casey Kerwin doing his best, and really great when you see a race like this where these drivers are able to display their skill, and you're amazed by not only the pace that they have, but how close they can run alongside each other for position while keeping it a clean fight.
Yeah, it's a proper demonstration of how good these sim racer drivers are and how they deserve their spots. They've got in through the gauntlet of the Road to Pro qualifying ladder and getting into this series. And especially in these road courses, you could see where they shine the most in the great racing. And to your point about mistakes, a lot of them haven't really come from contact. Plenty of the mistakes have come from single car, lockups or single car wheel hops. So it's not necessarily a matter of mistakes with other cars making contact. Most of the time, it's about everyone handling their cars themselves and then just losing it on their own accord. You saw the look at turn 4, that was where Parker White needed to make the look on the inside, work for the pass into 4th, but unfortunately not successful. They have not let Zach Novak catch up all that much because they have been single file this entire time, but I think these cars have really come alive, Evan, over the last half of this race particularly.
Well, that hardware in the background. That's the first thing I noticed. You've got a lot of championship presences in the top 5 right now. Casey Kerwin, of course, your 2022 series champion. Parker White right next to him for position, your defending champ from 2024. And if you want another trophy, Stephen Wilson's only 3 spots up the road as your current race leader. So your last 3 series champs all running inside of the top 5. I think that's a great encapsulation of kind of where this series has gone. That the drivers who find success in the last couple of years and maybe what we'll call now this modern era of this Coke Series are drivers who are extremely diverse in their talent on the racetrack. I don't know if you would have seen the last 3 champions be drivers who would run top 5 at a road course 10 years ago, but that's exactly where this series is today.
And it's also an example, Evan, of how NASCAR has really embraced the road course side of things. I mean, back then you only ran Sonoma and Watkins Glen, and for the most part you had the oval schedule, and you could count those road courses as write-offs. But in modern day NASCAR, you have so many road courses across the calendar that now you got to be a dual threat. You can't just be good at one type of track. You got to be good at both, and that's how you be at the top of this series. So to see 3 of those series champions up at the front shows how much of a dual threat these guys are. And here's a pivotal situation developing. Wilson has kept the lead by at least a car length or 2 throughout this entire run, but now I think Vicente is facing the lost front grip that he mentioned earlier in the show after the sprint race. The car is not handling the way he'd like it, so now Bobby Zalenski can pounce on and make the move for second.
And if that move happens, it's difficult to see a way in which Vicente Salas has the pace to win this race. If he would fall to the number 3 spot. And if you're Bobby Zalenski, I was just talking about the patience between the battle that had Kerwin and White in line for 4th and 5th for so long. That's kind of an isolated battle between those two. If you're Bobby Zalenski and you truly feel like you have the pace to go up and try to win this race, then this 11's slowing you down right now. Stephen Wilson's gap was 0.7 of a second the last time by the start-finish line. This time it goes to 8.5. So he's pulling away. If you're that 22, you got to get going.
Yeah, and Zalenski, the last lap before this one, he was faster than everyone in the top 3, but because he was behind Salas that entire lap, he slowed down, and then Wilson became the fastest car on the podium. So it's a game of fluctuation that Zalenski now has to make a decision of when to move. How about this battle just inside the top 20? Nick Ottinger, who spun earlier on in this race, had so much lost track position after beginning this one in 8th place, and then Tyler Gary, who's up 11 spots, 11 from 31st to 20th. Great move up through the E-Racer Toyota Camry in the 69 car, and great battle through turn 1. Kept it clean, and how about more battles further back?
They're going at it all over the racetrack. This time the battle involves that number 36 car. That's the car with the advantage of Kwame Scott, but under fire because Blake McCandless, Daniel Falkenham, and more all lined up. McCandless lost a spot. He'll lose another one. Maybe Blake being a bit realistic about his pace later in this one because he allows the 36 and the 39 to go by.
Yeah, that's a high IQ move there. When you understand that your pace is just not at the same as those behind you, you may make that calculated move to avoid any risk of Falkingham getting a little impatient and then making a move that unfortunately could take out them both. So McCandless says, I'll let you by. You're the faster car right now. I don't want to press the issue at this moment. But who is pressing the issue? It's Bobby Z, the 10-time road course winner. Now he'll peek to the inside from the long front straightaway. I think Salas will give up this fight for now in the bottom end to turn 1. Zalenski gets P2. Good move.
So Bobby Zalenski, the highest he has been running since he originally started that sprint race in the number 2 spot before getting passed by the man he was just able to get around in the number 11 of Salas. So now the question is, has the damage been done if Zalenski had the pace in the first place? He's able to get through to second, but not before the gap to Wilson nearly doubled to 1.5 seconds. With 6 laps to go that time by, you're looking at needing about 0.3 per lap if you're going to be able to get there. We haven't seen Zalenski put in lap times like that yet. Now, yes, he was behind Salas for most of them, so we will see if there is anything left for that 22 car, as the battle behind them for 4th has still not let up. Kerwin still got it. Parker still challenging. Good stuff here with the 24 and the 95.
Yeah, Zalenski getting around Salas. That lost him 0.4 on the racetrack. So he really has to pick all that up in these final 6 or so, maybe 5 next time by. And I don't know when Parker White is going to make this move, but he's been awfully close. I think the last time around turn 1, he was hounding on the rear bumper of that Coca-Cola Chevrolet in Kerwin. So at some point, White is going to make the move, but again, they have such a big gap to the car behind in Zach Novak that any potential look to the inside or outside isn't going to kill their momentum too much, and it won't lose them enough time to where they can accordion with everybody 6 on back, which that battle may start to develop soon enough. So we'll keep an eye on how they do it, but White is keeping that patient eye. Still 5 laps to go, plenty of miles left to get here at Interlagos, so many more opportunities he can make this pass complete. Now he wants to switch back. Inside look through the Senna S's. Here comes White to the inside. They bang and make contact, and Kerwin's going to continue with P4 for right now.
That's not what Parker White wanted to do. You could tell that he just missed the corner and hit the 24 machine immediately. Rolled off of the throttle, apologized on the radio, kind of a gentleman's agreement to give him the spot back. It doesn't mean that Parker White's not going to try again. That's just not the way he wanted to make the move. You're looking at 2 champions on and off the racetrack battling right now for 4th and 5th spot. If they continue to get aggressive, Novak, Lopez, and others have closed down a little bit in comparison to them. Still not an immediate threat. Let's watch it again on board with White. Never locks up the tires, but it was a late dive. And this is a fair line into the corner by the 24. See how he gets off the curbs? Parker White just in too deep. Let him go. You see he's basically off the throttle there until the 24 gets back going. Now that they've reset, he's going to go right back at him, though.
Yeah, he's got a second chance for sure, but right there in the Senna S's, you're going downhill. The car can lose so much grip when you're at that bottom end through turn 2. So White did a good job at getting back into the throttle when he knows his car is stable enough to be back into 100% mode. And yeah, not the last that we're seeing out of Parker White here, as I think he'll look for it again through the uphill section. He tried to bait Kerwin into being defensive there in turn 1. It didn't work for Kerwin, but now White is about a car length behind, so I'm not sure if White is going to extend this aggression past turn 1 here. He'll probably look for turn 4 as his main place to make that move, and there's Novak and company right behind. So these battles may continue to build up as well. Jordi Lopez has picked up some time on Novak. He was about a 10th faster the last time by, and then he can't make a mistake there because Alt, Luza, Minter, everyone in this top 11 are here to fight.
Still haven't missed anything up front. The gap still a 1.5 seconds in favor of Wilson. What you're looking at now is the best on track. Here comes White looking to the inside into turn number 4. Can't get the inside positioning. The 24 goes wide, stays in front. Remember Casey Kerwin using the sequential shifter. That's where the right hand goes when it comes off of the wheel. Now the 95 gets aggressive, a bit of a push that time, something we haven't seen intentionally between these two drivers yet. Next time by, going to be 3 laps to go in the feature race at Interlagos. Can the 95 get this pass done? He's been working on it for almost the entire race.
And this is a tight corner here. Right-hander, turn 10, Bico de Pato, or otherwise known as a duck's beak. It doesn't get the look on the inside here, but it's a run through Mergulho and then Junsao. If you can go up the hill and get the run to turn 1, that's exactly the position you need to be in if you're White. And this is a good look off of that penultimate corner, turn 12, then up to turn 13, and then through this long straightaway. Now he's a little bit closer, so you can make the move again in turn 1. It's just about whether he's willing to do it after the failed attempt that last time by. They cling near the inside wall. This is a wonderful treat to watch, Evan, to see these two go at it. And Kerwin stays up front. White again relinquishes another possible opportunity at a pass.
And so few opportunities through this technical second half of the racetrack for him to get fully on the throttle. Now he's going to be able to lay it down, and it's going to be a full throttle run as they make that high-speed run down to turn number 4. But even the back half of the Senna S there, all the way to turn number 3, maybe 50 to 75% throttle at times, and you're going to hear a lot more of that on the throttle as he gets back down to the 6 through 12 complex on the second half of this lap. But you would be remiss to not notice the difference. This looks exactly like it did, I don't know, 10 laps ago. These two just cannot get away. Maybe a mistake there for the 24. Wide for Kerwin. It's White on the apron again, though, because it switches back to a left-hand corner the next time through. Kerwin gets right back in control.
it's a smart play there, Evan, because you go to the outside, you give him the corner, and then you're like, well, there's another corner where we switch over, and I have the preferred lane. So Kerwin says, have at it to the inside, and then just go back at it. I'll take the spot anyway, and I'll keep my defense intact. So you got to give credit to what Kerwin is doing here. Both of these guys are going to get great points anyway after this race is all said and done, should they not make any crucial mistakes that take them out of this race. And I mean, Kerwin and White, top 10 in point standings right now. We know that they really do want that segment 1 win by the time we finish up the race at Rockingham. So maybe one of these passes very instrumental in what they can do to the segment championship. And once again, White will have to focus on turn 4. That's been his best opportunity past turn 7 and 8 to make this spot. Oh, looks like there's contact in turn 1.
That was the 97 to Tucker Minter was one of them. Second car was Ryan Luza. In a battle for 9th and 10th position, it is contact in turn number 1 that sent the 97 car sideways first, but then Luza got spun all the way around, and Luza is not happy with Tucker Minter on the radio.
Yeah, and that was just a mistake from Minter. It was the same phenomenon that happened to Colin Bowden in the sprint race. And here's a better look at it. Entering turn 1, the Senna S corner, Tucker Minter thinks he has the momentum. He is there on the inside of Lusa, but it's that left front tire that locks up. And it's a very weird situation where, you know, if you tag the right front and you get that locked up, you're going straight. If you lock up the left front tire, the car is going to hook to the inside of the racetrack. So Minter goes for the slide. He's got no choice but to slide up into Luza, who goes spinning. And for both of those guys who are right at the edge of potentially getting a top 6 effort here with Novak and Lopez at the front of that line, very frustrating when it's the final 2 laps of the race.
Yeah, he's not happy about that one. He loses positions. Minter, in the end, loses none. He'll stay in the number 10 spot after Dylan Duvall was able to go by and get around him. Meanwhile, up front, white flag in the air and 1 lap to go for Steven Wilson. Somebody who already came into tonight riding the high of a race win earlier this season in the opener at Daytona, looking to go 2 for 3 for the first time.
Yeah, and for the last race at Vegas, how frustrated he was after that one. A top 10 effort brewing, a really fast race car. Then he disconnects early. He faces several laps down from the field, and he has to finish pretty poorly in that race. I think 37th it was at the checkered flag. So he's got to have a chance to remind the field that he's the man to beat in 2025, and he's got control of this race by nearly a second and a half. Meanwhile, the battle for 4th continues. Remember, Parker White's failed attempts at getting to this very spot that Kerwin has held on the throne for several laps on end. It's one more chance through these final corners.
Right on the bumper. Several opportunities left for the number 95 car. We'll follow this one through all the way to the end with several opportunities to make a move. Kerwin has held him off for about a dozen and change. Can he hold him off for 4 more corners? Up front, though, Steven Wilson coming through the final sets of corners, maybe in the best form that we have ever seen the 77 in. As the battle for 4th goes side by side, White to the inside of Kerwin. This one going to come down to the checkered flag. Up front, Steven Wilson goes 2 for 3. The best start he's ever had in his career, winning eNASCAR's debut in Brazil. This battle for 4th, all the way to the stripe, side by side. Kerwin stays in front and wins the fight for P4 over Parker White.
What a brawl between those two. Some of the best drivers in this series going toe-to-toe for laps on end. Kerwin and White putting on a show. But the spotlight rests on Steven Wilson. How strong of a start 2025 is for him. Championship contender in his last 3 seasons. And Evan, another great win for Wilson, this time 2nd of the year.
It is race win number 2 of the season. This winning moment is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. Steven Wilson has his best start to a season in his career. It is the best start that Spire Motorsports has had in their tenure here in this series. And with career race win number 11, Steven Wilson has passed Kenny Humpy for sole possession of number 7 on the all-time wins list.
he's already becoming one of the greatest drivers in this series. Although he's been in it for a couple years now, Wilson has been so strong on the road courses, but it was always tough to beat the control that Bobby Zalenski had on this specific type of racetrack in the Coke campaigns. But Wilson finally breaches the pressure from Vicente Salas, beats him in those opening laps. So we talk about how important track position is. Wilson made the move early, and he capitalized for the rest of the race. That shows you just how disciplined Wilson was at saving his stuff and making use of it when it mattered the most. And after last week's troubles, Wilson's going to forget all about it now. Second race win of 2025, already in a championship position.
Take a look at your Coca-Cola move of the race for Steven Wilson in the 77 car as he goes on to win. How can you not love this stuff? The 95 and the 24. First, the side-by-side move down into turn number 1. Parker says that's not the way I wanted to get it done. Resets, goes back at him, and then in the final few corners, gets to the inside of the number 24 car. This sets him up on the wrong side, so he tucks back in line, and they went at it all the way. Probably for the final 16 laps in this 24-lap feature. Got to the inside in the third to last corner, and then it was a straight-up drag race at 170 miles an hour, and nose-to-nose and side-by-side across the line. Kerwin ends up beating White to the start-finish line by 4/100ths of a second. We enter tonight's Sunoco post-race report. Let's talk with your race winner.
And here we are in victory lane in eNASCAR's first ever Brazil race. Steven, you are the man to beat at the checkered flag. Second win of the season. And after what happened to you last week at Vegas, where you suffered those connection problems, you got back in it, but you ended up finishing beneath the top 35. How big is a second race win and winning 2 of the last 3 to kick off the year?
Yeah, this rocks for sure. You know, having 2 wins already this early in the season is awesome. We're undefeated when we make it to the end of the race here, so that's also a good note. But, I mean, yeah, we had a really fast piece. I got to thank all the guys behind the scenes. Jarrett Lieber puts in a lot of work for us on road courses, so he did really good this week. We had some good finishes, and, yeah, I was happy qualifying, I mean, honestly, I slowed down a lot just to put it in an invert spot. I'm sure Vicente and Bobby did too. Obviously, we were pulling away there, but that was pretty fun. You know, Vicente just got loose in turn 3 and let me up the inside. So I got to thank everybody at GGT, Spire, for having me on board this year, and just really excited to have 2 wins already on the season.
You capitalize on this race from Interlagos. I think it's going to be even more dangerous. Richmond, the next race, you're trying to defend the throne there, so it's going to be fun to watch. Steven, congratulations on the win from eNASCAR's debut in Brazil, and best of luck heading to Richmond in a couple weeks. That's Steven Wilson, the race winner, and we got to talk to Casey Kerwin. Casey, what a defensive masterclass that was. You and Parker White, some of the best road course racing I've seen in stock cars. For your perspective, what was all of that like behind the wheel?
Yeah, very difficult. I was, I kind of joked with like 10 to go that I was slow in all the right places compared to Parker. Yeah, he was much quicker than me over the run. Just thankfully I had good enough drive out of the main onto the main straightaways, and yeah, just kind of was able to hold him off in the stuff where he was really good. So yeah, to go from 15th in qualifying to 4th is better than I could have hoped. I don't think going in, you know, that Steven, Bobby, Vicente, and Parker are kind of like the big 4 at road courses. I'm normally kind of just a little bit behind them, and I was hoping to, you know, kind of be there. But with the qualifying effort in 15th, I was kind of worried that it was going to be a rough night. But thankfully got a lot of spots in P1 on the sprint, and was able to get a couple more in the feature and hold Parker off. It was a lot of fun to the end. So
it was awesome to watch from our side of things, and I hope it was as great down low on the racetrack. Best finish of the 2025 season. Best of luck, Casey, as we head on to Richmond. And Evan, that is Steven Wilson, the race winner, 2 of the last 3, and Casey Kerwin putting on a show to hold on to 4th.
It's the 3rd season in his career that Steven Wilson is a multi-race winner as we take a look at tonight's Sunoco full race results. Again, the win for him and the Spire Motorsports Chevrolet Group ahead of Bobby Zalenski. The ERA Esports team comes home P2, and it may not have ended in storybook fashion like team boss Tony Kanaan would have wanted, but still a fantastic showing for the Kanaan Esports number 11 Vicente Salas, who comes home in third. Kerwin and White inside of the top 5. And shout out to Dylan Duvall, who continued to up the ante, 11 spots gained total. P9 is a huge recovery for the man who was 30th on the grid for the sprint about an hour and a half ago.
And then behind the top 10, you got to give shout-outs as well for those beneath this area of the field. Garrett Lowe, picked up a couple spots after losing it in the first several laps. Jimmy Mullison, 12. Michael Cozy Jr. makes up 25 total gain positions from the starting grid in the heat race to the finishing position here in the feature. 13th is what he gets here. Ryan Luza in 14th, Clampett back in 15th. And how about the rookie Quentin Warman is showed out early in his season debut, and he's done well for himself. Ottinger in 17th. Busa, Gary, and another rookie, Connor Euroshak, rounds out the top 20.
Yeah, it's a good bounce back for him. Meanwhile, back here, some of the other drivers we checked in with. Alexander Russell ends up in the 21st spot. Great recovery for Kwame Scott, too, digging out of the 30s on the grid. He comes home in 23rd. Blaze Crawford ends up in the green as well. So a lot of good storylines.
And then you've got the other end of things, the struggles for many of these guys. Donovan Strauss, Briar LaPrade, Colin Keister, last week's race winner. Graham Boland, connection issues at the end. And you had a bit of Seth the Merchant. That concludes the 40-car field. A lot of those guys facing issues in the first Brazilian race in eNASCAR history.
So from a first to a familiar friend as we head to the action track at iRacing's virtual Richmond Raceway, coming up in a couple of weeks' time for round number 4 of this 2025 season. And I don't mean to sound alarmist to the rest of the field, Kenneth, but the driver who won this race in 2024 is Steven Wilson, and he is feeling good right now.
Yeah, he's at the top of the eNASCAR world right now, and this track has seen it all. Plenty of cautions, plenty of great racing, and we have heat racing when we're there on March 25th, so that should be another added challenge for everyone in the field. And if Wilson's hot off the press from Interlagos, I cannot imagine how fiery he's going to be when we get to Richmond in a couple weeks' time.
You're not going to want to miss that one. We will see you in 3 weeks' time. Until then, though, that is it for us here tonight from Brazil. On behalf of our entire team at eNASCAR, iRacing, and your broadcast crew tonight. For Camille Salazar-Hadaway, Alan Cavana, and Ryan Vargas on Countdown to Green, and Kenneth Bueno, and myself, Evan Pasoko, in the booth. I want to say thanks for tuning in, and we hope that we see you in a couple of weeks' time for round number 4 from Richmond. That one on Tuesday, March 25th. That race and every race of the 2025 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series can be found exclusively right here on the iRacing Esports Network. Until next time, good night from Interlagos, and congratulations to 2-time winner this season, Steven Wilson.